Some call them zombies. They're banished from many societies, but within Fallout's games, you'll find them everywhere. I'm Mark from Digital Dissection. I make Fallout lore videos, and today I'll be your guide to facts about Fallout's ghouls and their journey across the series' history. What exactly is a ghoul? The highly irradiated beings are a product of being exposed to intense levels of radiation, but mutate as a result, rather than die. The perfect balance of just how much radiation exposure creates ghouls isn't fully known, but those who have survived the process tend to see several consistent attributes. An extended lifespan, of course, is one of the most notable, functionally making most ghouls immortal, as the mutated post-human body is more durable and can heal by exposure to more radiation sources. They are also sterile, meaning that after ghoulification, they can no longer reproduce. The process, however, causes human flesh to appear burned, rotting, and considered by many to be walking corpses. The condition is further expanded on by Doc Barrows of Fallout 3, who refers to ghouls as necrotic post-humans, and he believes that it's a condition that can possibly be reversed with enough research. But so far, this is not the case in subsequent games. Fallout's Great War, of course, had many unintended consequences, and while we've covered many examples of mutated creatures and hellish experiments in previous videos, one constant looming fact is that millions of humans lost their lives over the course of roughly 2 hours on October 23, 2077. But losing their lives may be depending on your point of view. The nuclear war released fatal amounts of radiation across the Earth, and only an incredible limited population could access Vault-Tec's underground safe havens. Millions were either incinerated by the explosions or faced the brunt of the fallout itself, and those unlucky to be exposed to the results largely became the planet's ghoul population, of which we don't have a clear estimate for just how many exist, while the United States population was an estimated 400 million citizens. Unknown numbers of Fallout's ghouls have existed for hundreds of years, and without the Great War, they'd likely never be here. But there are a few exceptions. While worldwide devastation may have created ghouls, there are several instances where ghouls were created beforehand. Research in Boston's Commonwealth was already underway in February of 2077, as unknown corporations operated tests on radiation exposure in the area. But several interested parties were investigating ghoulification as a means to survive the war. Desmond Lockhart is one of these examples, a 250-year-old ghoul from the United Kingdom who was a former intelligence official. Lockhart sought out ghoulification in an experimental study to gradually expose himself to lethal doses of radiation, as a means to outlive his enemies and rivals. Another example is notorious Boston gangster Eddie Winter, who also underwent ghoulification in the fall of 2077, only weeks before the bombs fell. Between both instances, it was clear that radiation exposure was a solution many were using, as a means to outlast the impending war. Of course, not all ghouls necessarily chose to become post-human forms intentionally, and after the war, ghouls became a presence amongst the emerging United States wasteland. With this came an unforeseen consequence: societal prejudice and banishment from most establishing settlements and populations. Ghouls therefore had to either find unique allies, or in many cases, create their own ghoul cities, of which there were many examples across the series. Necropolis of Fallout 1 is one of the first known, as the city was created by the survivors of Vault 12, as the Doom Vault was designed to never officially close its front door, exposing everyone inside to radiation. Similar settlements like Fallout 2's Gecko and Fallout 3's Underworld all feature unique ghoul populations, but they are cautious of outsiders due to societal discrimination. In the case of Necropolis, this meant going so far as to eat human outsiders. While ghouls may seem to have upside as immortal beings with healing properties, this eventually comes with a cost. Many ghoul beings eventually succumb to a process that makes them become feral, essentially turning them from reasonable human forms to unstable and incredibly violent husks of their former selves. Initially, feral ghouls were known in the series by different names, being referred to as mindless and crazies, with feral becoming the common accepted term amongst post-war societies. The unfortunate consequence of different ghoul forms and prejudice stems from the fact that ghouls who have lost reason inspired fear amongst surviving humans. An assumption that all ghouls will become feral leads many humans to believe that a loss of mental faculties is inevitable for all ghoul kind, and therefore there are dangerous possibilities waiting to happen. Feral, of course, typically won't attack their own kind, but the risk of turning isn't one most settlements are willing to take a chance on. There have been some lore advancements in this area, but more on that later. While many variants of ghouls exist, sometimes this is symbolic in nature. Other times it's a reference to stronger abilities. One such evolution is the glowing one, a luminous necrotic posthuman that has consumed so much radiation that it emits a noticeable glow across its body. Glowing ones are incredibly dangerous, as they function as capacitors for radiation, essentially charging to dangerous amounts and releasing it in a massive dispersion. This leads glowing ones to emit radiation at various levels based on proximity, but this extends to being able to even revive dead ghouls with this power. Radiation, of course, can heal ghouls, and due to such walking radioactive batteries like glowing ones, their functional immortality can seemingly extend life even beyond the grave. So some confusion does exist depending on when you might have began following the world of Fallout, and its ghouls in particular. With almost 30 years of established lore, we've actually seen a few anomalies throughout Fallout's history. Within the world of Fallout 1, ghouls still drank water, consumed normal foods, and behaved like humans despite their physical appearance. Over time, though, ghouls potentially didn't actually require these human necessities as often into the Bethesda era. What seems to make more sense is that due to radiation, ghouls can exist without sustenance for longer periods of time, and exposure in a sense to more radiation can provide replacement nutrients to the body. A confusing outlier, however, involves Billy Peabody of Fallout 4, who became trapped in a refrigerator for hundreds of years. With no food or water for centuries, Billy managed to survive, throwing a wrench in ghoul logic from a survival standpoint. Some have theorized that ghouls can enter a dormant state of sorts, but Billy's incredible survival story leads to many more questions. So far, we've examined purely human evolutionary developments into ghoulification, but the process actually extends into the animal kingdom. Ghoulified bears have been encountered in extremely rare situations across Fallout 3, 4, and 76. The mutated Yaogwai populations of the United States experience similar irradiated conditions to their human counterparts, and irregular long lifespans for ghoul Yaogwai have been witnessed. Ruzka of Fallout 3's Point Lookout is one such example, a former circus bear that has lived for over 200 years, indicating that human ghoulification and animal transformations appear to be consistent together. Gorillas encountered in Fallout 4's Nuka world have also experienced some form of ghoulification after radiation exposure, but it's not fully known the extent of their transformation. The creatures encountered in the Fallout 4 DLC are called Ghoulrillas, and existed as an attraction of the park's safari adventure before the war. But this once again reinforces ghoulification's ability to extend normal lifespans. If we only focused on Fallout's games, the content of referring to ghouls as functionally immortal would be easy to leave alone, given that so many examples of them extend for centuries. Fallout's first season on Amazon Prime, however, takes this assumption into a different direction, as Cooper Howard, aka the Ghoul, showcases that ghoulification does indeed have an expiration date of sorts. Howard's expansive life began before the Great War, but this doesn't mean he can avoid the feral transformation so many other ghouls have experienced over time. His ability to avoid this process is due to a series of yellow vials that he consumes, allowing him to retain his mental faculties. A fellow ghoul named Roger addresses this impressive longevity, as Cooper Howard has to represent one of the oldest known ghouls to still exist, based on his ability to continue being able to afford these mysterious yellow vials. This insinuates that ghouls can't live on indefinitely without some form of help from the as-of-yet unidentified chems that Howard consumes. Howard himself, however, comes very close to succumbing to the feral condition, acquiring a new supply of his yellow vials just before feral conditions overtake his mind. So it would appear that ghoulification may in fact have limitations, but it's not entirely clear if that timeline is the same for every single necrotic posthuman. And with that, we do thank you for joining us as we explored 9 facts about Fallout's ghouls. Are there any facts about posthumans that we missed? Let us know in the comments. And for more content just like this video, check out our Fallout Stories playlist linked here, where you can find more weekly Fallout content. And until next time, pop culture nerds, keep on dissecting. This is Mark signing off.